Good evening. This is Pastor Lew Burns from Abundant Life Baptist Church in Naugatuck, Connecticut, and we are doing Walk through the Word this evening. Exodus, picking up in the very end of chapter 20 and moving on through chapter 22. Very important ending in chapter 20 after the Ten Commandments. Lord, here we are. So we'll pick up right now in verse 22 of Exodus 20. And the Lord said unto Moses, Thus thou shalt say unto the children of Israel, Ye have seen that I have talked with you from heaven. Ye shall not make with me gods of silver, neither shall ye make unto you gods of gold. Small g. God was very specific about idols and images. And he again speaks again to Moses about this, not making images, not making idols, gods of silver or of gold. And it goes on even still to this very day. People are piling up gold, they're piling up silver, they're making their images. This is not what God would have us to do. So moving on to verse 24, speaking of the law of making an altar for a sacrifice unto God. And he is being very specific about this. An altar of earth thou shalt make unto me, and shalt sacrifice thereon thy burnt offerings and thy peace offerings, thy sheep and thine oxen in all places where I record my name. I will come unto thee, and I will bless thee. There are so many. He's saying, where you sacrifice to me, you can make an altar of earth. You can do this. Or, if not, in verse 25, and if thou wilt make me an altar of stone, thou shalt not build it of hewn stone. For if thou lift up thy tool upon it, thou hast polluted it. He wants you to take the stones that are found, as they can be moved. And if you want to build an altar of stone, build it of stones as they are, not creating an altar of stones that you have worked with your tools to square them off or make them a certain shape or a certain... No. Build them of the stone as you find it. Very specific. Very, very specific. And it needs to be flat. Verse 26, neither shalt thou go up by steps unto mine altar, that thy nakedness be not discovered thereon. Not going up the steps so somebody can look up. Don't need step. Just build it on the ground. Build it as you would build it to have your sacrifice on. If we go on to Leviticus chapter 1 and verse 2, Leviticus chapter 1 and verse 2. Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, if any man of you bring an offering unto the Lord, ye shall bring your offering of the cattle, given even of the herd, and of the flock. These are the offerings to be offered on these altars. And if we go on to the book of Deuteronomy in chapter 7, Deuteronomy in chapter 7 and verse 12 and 13. Wherefore it shall come to pass, if ye hearken to these judgments, and keep and do them, that the Lord thy God shall keep unto thee the covenant and the mercy which he sware unto thy fathers, and he will love thee, and bless thee, and multiply thee. He will also bless the fruit of thy womb, and the fruit of thy land, thy corn, and thy wine, and thine oil, and increase of thy kine, and the flocks of thy sheep, in the land which he sware unto thy fathers to give unto thee. The judgments, the 10 Commandments, this law of worshiping on the altars, and the judgments which we will study tonight. These things, if ye hearken to these judgments and keep and do them. We move on to Deuteronomy chapter 12 and verse 5, which states, But unto the place which the Lord your God shall choose out of all your tribes, to put his name there, even unto his habitation, shall ye seek, and thither thou shalt come. And drop down to verse 11. Then there shall be a place which the Lord your God shall choose, to cause his name to dwell there. Thither shall ye bring all that I command you, your burnt offerings and your sacrifices, your tithes, and the heave offering of your hand, and all of your choice vows which ye vow unto the Lord. And on down to verse 21 of Deuteronomy 12. If the place which the Lord thy God hath chosen to put his name there be too far from thee, then thou shalt kill of thy herd and of thy flock, which the Lord hath given thee, as I have commanded thee, and thou shalt eat in thy gates whatsoever thy soul lusteth after. You can make your sacrifices. It's too far to go to where God has chosen to put his name. We go to 2 Chronicles chapter 6. 2 Chronicles chapter 6 and verse 6. 2 Chronicles chapter 6 and verse 6. But I have chosen Jerusalem, that my name might be there, and have chosen David to be over my people Israel. God has chosen Jerusalem as the place for his name to be worshipped, for him to be worshipped, there to dwell with man. Moving on to chapter 21. Verse 1, Now these are the judgments which thou shalt set before them. These are the judgments which thou shalt set before them. We go on to Exodus 24 and verse 3. Exodus 24, And Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord, and all the judgments, and all the people answered with one voice and said, All the words which the Lord hath said, we will do. And Moses wrote all the words of the Lord, and rose up early in the morning, and builded an altar under the hill, and 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel, doing exactly as God had commanded. So here we have specific judgments, specific rules that Israel is to follow in order to follow God's will and his law. In verse 2, we speak of a servant. of a Hebrew servant. It says, if thou buy an Hebrew servant 6 years, he shall serve, and in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing. Every 7 years, the servants, the Hebrew servants of the Hebrews, they shall go free without being redeemed, whatever service they have performed during the years that they were there. On that 7th year, they go free without payment. We go on to Leviticus 25, Leviticus chapter 25 and verse 39. And if thy brother that dwelleth by thee be waxen poor, and be sold unto thee, thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bondservant, but as an hired servant, and as a sojourner he shall be with thee, and shall serve thee unto the year of Jubilee. That's every 7 years. That is the 7th year by which they will go free. And then shall he depart from thee, both he and his children with him, and shall return unto his own family, and unto the possession of his fathers shall he return. There is a limit to the bondservant. There is a limit to this serving of another Jew. Go on to Deuteronomy 15. Deuteronomy 15 and verse 12. And if thy brother, an Hebrew man or an Hebrew woman, be sold unto thee, and serve thee 6 years, then in the 7th year thou shalt let him go free from thee. No ifs, no ands, no buts. The exceptions come now. Verse 3. If he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he were married, then his wife shall go out with him. If you came in as a single person, you go out as a single person. If you came in as a married couple, you go out as a married couple. If you came in as a single person, if his master, verse 4, have given him a wife, and she have borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's, and he shall go out by himself. And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free. There is an option. There's an option to stay, but stay permanently. Stay permanently. This is an option. If we go to Deuteronomy 15 again, Deuteronomy 15 and verses 16 and 17. Verse 16, and it shall be, if he say unto thee, I will not go away from thee, because he loveth thee in thine house, because he is well with thee, then thou shalt take an awl, and thrust it through his ear unto the door, and he shall be thy servant forever. And also unto thy maidservant thou shalt do likewise. Doesn't matter, man, woman. If they choose to stay, they may stay. Verse 6 of Deuteronomy 21, then his master shall bring him unto the judges. He shall also bring him to the door, or unto the doorpost, and his master shall bore through his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. This is the law of service. Now here we have, in verse 7, if a man sell his daughter to be a maidservant, she shall not go out as the men servants do. if she please not her master who hath betrothed her to himself. If he says, you're going to be as a wife to me, then shall he let her be redeemed. If she doesn't please him, she can be redeemed with money. To sell her unto a strange nation, he shall have no power, seeing he hath dealt deceitfully with her. Oh, yeah, he's going to marry her. Yeah, she's going to be as a wife to him. No. He's dealt deceit. He cannot sell her to any of the surrounding somebody from a surrounding nation. She needs to be allowed to be redeemed. And if he hath betrothed her, if he hath betrothed her unto his son, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters. If he shall take him another wife, if he has taken her as wife, if he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. No matter what it is, what her portion was, her portion still must be. He cannot just replace her or diminish her portion of food or her clothes, and certainly not her marriage, her duty of marriage. If we go on to 1 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 5. 1 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 5, God speaks to us through Paul here. 7 and verse 5, he said, defraud ye not one the other, except it be with consent for a time, that ye may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and come together at then, again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency. In other words, your marital relations, your sexual relations that happen between a husband and a wife, those also shall not be diminished. And if he do not these three unto her, verse 11, then shall she go out free without money. Take another wife, not giving her all the food that she should be having, or the clothes that she should be having, ignoring her as a servant that he took for a wife. She can just go out free. No money exchanged. No, nothing. Just be able to go. And now we look also here. Now we're looking at injuries, judgments regarding servants. Now we're looking at injuries. He that smiteth a man so that he die shall surely be put to death. He that smiteth a man that he die shall surely be put to death. Thou shalt not kill. We go to Leviticus chapter 24. Leviticus chapter 24. And verse 17. And he that killeth any man shall surely be put to death. This is not a new concept. This is not a new concept. It goes all the way back to Cain when he slew Abel. Said, anybody who finds me will kill me. No, that's why God put the mark on him, that he not be killed. We go on to Numbers 35. Numbers chapter 35 and verse 30. Whoso killeth any person, the murderer shall be put to death by the mouth of witnesses, but one witness shall not testify against any person to cause him to die. Has to be more than one witness. Moreover, ye shall take no satisfaction for the life of a murderer, which is guilty of death, but he shall be surely put to death. In other words, there's no retribution for putting a murderer to death. Only, and it has to be verified that he did the murder. We go on to Matthew chapter 26. Matthew chapter 26 and the words of Christ. Matthew chapter 26 and verse 52. Then Jesus said unto him, Put up again thy sword into his place. For all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword. Christ is reaffirming this principle, this law. He that smiteth a man, so that he die. And if a man lie not in wait, but God deliver him unto his hand, then I will appoint thee a place whither he shall flee. If this is just not, if he wasn't waiting, if he had no intent on killing this individual, it just so happened that that was the result, then he can go to a place where he shall flee. But if a man come presumptuously upon his neighbor to slay him with guile, you lay in wait, you're hiding behind a bush or a tree or stone wall or something. You're waiting to leap out, to kill him, to slay him with guile. Your intent is to slay this other person. Then thou shalt take him from mine altar that he may die. Doesn't matter. He can plead all he wants, even up to the altar. He still needs to pay the price. We go on to Numbers chapter 15. Numbers chapter 15 and verse 30. But the soul that doeth aught presumptuously, whether he be born in the land or a stranger, the same reproacheth the Lord, and that soul shall be cut off from among his people. He shall be cut off, he shall die. Go to Numbers chapter 35 and verse 20. Numbers chapter 35 and verse 20. But if he thrust him of hatred, or hurl at him by laying of wait, that he die, or in enmity smite him with his hand, that he die, he that smote him shall surely be put to death, for he is a murderer. The revenger of blood shall slay the murderer when he meeteth him. There is a very specific, it's not that hard to understand. If you lay in wait for if you intend to kill somebody and you kill them, you're a murderer and deserve to die. Go to Hebrews chapter 10. Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 26. For if we sin willfully, after that we have received the knowledge of the truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sin. Willfully. Intent. This is, he comes and in guile. Now here we have another special case. In verse 15, and he that smiteth his mother or his father shall be surely put to death. He that smiteth his mother or his father. Doesn't say that they have to die. What does the commandment say? Honor thy father and thy mother. Well, if you go around smiting them, hitting them, that's not honor. That's the exact opposite of honor. Surely be put to death. And he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. He that stealeth a man and selleth him, or even if he keeps him. Stealing a man, we call that kidnapping today. Selling him, human trafficking, we call that today. Or keeping him. We've seen that today. Even unto this very day. What does the law of God say to the people of Israel? He shall surely be put to death. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 24. Deuteronomy chapter 24 and verse 17. Thou shalt not pervert the judgment of the stranger, nor of the fatherless, nor take a widow's raiment to pledge. You shall not steal a man or sell them, shall not work against those that God would have you to be. Your brothers, your sisters, these are people not to be stolen, not to be kidnapped. Verse 17, and he that curseth his mother or his father shall surely be put to death. Verse 15, if you strike them. Verse 17, let's take it a step further. If you curse them, your mother or your father, be surely be put to death. And if these are not just little suggestions. If a man, verse 18, if men strive together, two men are fighting against one another. men strive together, and one smite another with a stone or with his fist, and he die not, but keepeth his bed, if he rise again and walk abroad on his staff, then he that smote him be quit. Only he shall pay for the loss of his time, and shall cause him to be throughly healed. These are the basis of laws that we have followed for centuries. Laws that are in force even now, even today. Strive together. If you hit somebody, even to the point we use the same principle in car accidents or other accidents. Not just if somebody strikes another, but shall pay for the loss of his time, and shall cause him to be thoroughly healed. Thoroughly healed, completed. He shall make him whole once more. We go, and if a man smite his servant or his maid with a rod, and he die under his hand, he shall surely be punished. Take a stick to him. Take something really hard and cause him to die. He's a murderer, even though he is a servant. Notwithstanding, if he continue a day or two, he shall not be punished, because he is his money. The loss of the servant for the years that are left is a monetary loss. If he dies, he will be punished. Verse 22, if men strive and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her, yet no mischief follow, he shall be surely punished according to as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. Two men strive, or more, and somehow there's a woman with child nearby, that somehow this woman is struck down, this woman is struck, this woman is injured in this striving of men, and gets hurt so that her child, the fruit of her womb, depart from her. So there is no longer a child to be had. If nothing further happens to her, this is not a conscious, oh, I'm going to go there and strike this woman and cause her harm, that she lose her child. No, that's not what this is. This is two men or more striving together. They're having a fight, and somehow this woman, in the midst of this fight, one of them causes injury to the woman so that she loses her child. No mischief follow. However, it's a different story if the woman's hurt is continued. If any mischief follow, the woman dies. Because There were other blows struck. There were other injuries. Any mischief follow. Things done on purpose. Then thou shalt give life for life. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. Burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. Very specific. Very, very specific. We go on to Leviticus chapter 24. Leviticus chapter 24, the book of laws. And verse 19. If a man cause a blemish in his neighbor, as he hath done, so shall it be done to him. Breach for breach, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. As he has caused a blemish in a man, so shall it be done to him again. Again, very specific. We go to the book of Matthew. Book of Matthew, Christ speaking, Sermon on the Mount, chapter 7. Matthew chapter 7 and verse 2. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure ye meet, it shall be measured to you again. Be careful about how you judge in this day and age, in this time. So going on in chapter 21, if a man smite the eye of his servant or the eye of his maid, and that it perish, he shall let him go free for his eye's sake. And if he smite out of his manservant's tooth or his maidservant's tooth, he shall let him go free for his tooth's sake. If you permanently harm your manservant, your maidservant, then they no longer have to serve you, because you have permanently harmed them, and there is no putting that back. We go into laws. Go into the laws here. If an ox gore a man or a woman that they die, then the ox shall surely be stoned, shall be surely stoned, and his flesh not be eaten, but the owner of the ox shall be quit. If a wild ox goes wild and kills someone, the ox is to be killed. The meat of the ox is forbidden. There's something wrong. The ox shall not be eaten, but just put to death. But verse 29, here we come back to intent. If the ox were wont to push with his horn in time past, and it hath been testified to his owner, and he hath not kept him in, but that he hath killed a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and his owner also shall be put to death. Okay, if you know that your animal is dangerous and likely to harm a man or a woman, an individual, and you don't keep him or keep this ox away from people, keep them fenced in, keep them in. And then, if you know this, it's been testified to, and you do not keep them in, then the ox shall be stoned, and his owner also be put to death. there be laid on him a sum of money, then he shall give for the ransom of his life whatsoever is laid on him. If the judges determine, that a monetary value is more appropriate, then he can ransom his life, the ransom of his life. Whether he have gored a son or have gored a daughter, according to this judgment shall it be done unto him. If the ox shall push a manservant or a maidservant, he shall give unto their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox be stoned. Now here we have a very interesting value for the life of that son or daughter. 30 shekels of silver. And we'll see that. Let's go to Zechariah chapter 11. Book of Zechariah. Chapter 11 and verse 12. Zechariah chapter 11 and verse 12. And I said unto them, if ye think good, give me my price, and if not, forbear. So they weighed for my price 30 pieces of silver. And the Lord said unto me, cast it unto the potter, a goodly price that I was prized out of them. And I took the 30 pieces of silver and cast them to the potter in the house of the Lord. The price, 30 pieces of silver, by which Christ was betrayed. Going back to Exodus 21 and 33, a man shall open a pit, or if a man shall dig a pit and not cover it, and an ox or an ass fall therein, the owner of the pit shall make it good, and give money unto the owner of them, and the dead beast shall be his. I'm just going to pay the money that the ox or the ass was worth. And if one man's ox hurt another's, that he die, then they shall sell the live ox and divide the money of it. And the dead ox also shall they divide. They can eat it. Or if it be known that the ox hath used to push in time past, and his owner hath not kept him in, he shall surely pay ox for ox, and the dead shall be his own. He's got to give the price of another ox. He has to restore that good ox. So now we go to the laws of a thief. We go to the laws of thievery. If a man shall steal an ox or a sheep and kill it or sell it, he shall restore 5 oxen for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. You will have to pay more than you took. Go to 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel chapter 12. 2 Samuel chapter 12 and verse 6. And he shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing and because he had no pity. A judgment because of stealing from another. Go to Proverbs chapter 6 and verse 31. But if he be found, speaking of a thief, he shall restore 7-fold. He shall give all the substance of his house. And Luke chapter 19 and verse 8. Luke chapter 19 and verse 8. And Zacchaeus stood and said unto the Lord, Behold, Lord, the half my goods I give to the poor, and if I have taken anything from any man by false accusation, I restore him fourfold. He was a tax collector, by the way. So verse 22, chapter 22 and verse 2, if a thief be found breaking up, and be smitten that he die, there shall no blood be shed for him. If you're caught in the middle of stealing, and you get killed by the man of the house preventing you stealing his goods, there shall be no blood shed. He is not guilty of the man's blood. The blood is on his own. We go to Leviticus chapter 19. Leviticus chapter 19. And verse 11. Ye shall not steal, neither deal falsely, neither lie to one another. There is a principle here, and it's carried forth in the Gospels. Matthew chapter 4. Matthew chapter 24, rather. Matthew chapter 24 and verse 43. Matthew chapter 24 and verse 43. Christ is speaking. But know this, that if the good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Well, that's what they're talking about here. Verse 3. If the sun be risen upon him, there shall be blood shed for him. For he should make full restitution. If he have nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft. If he gets out, if he gets away for it, and you catch him later, then he needs to make restitution. You can't kill him for breaking the house. If the theft be certainly found in his hand alive, whether it be ox or ass or sheep, he shall restore double. If a man shall cause a field or a vineyard to be eaten, and shall put in his beast, and shall feed in another man's field, of the best of his own field and of the best of his own vineyard, shall he make restitution. He's feeding his animals, on your property, causing your crops to be eaten. He needs to be making restitution. If fire break out and catch in thorns, so that the stacks of corn, or the standing corn, or the field be consumed therewith, he that kindled the fire shall surely make restitution. He that kindled the fire. If you start a fire and it causes damage, you need to make restitution. If a man shall deliver unto his neighbor money or stuff to keep, and it be stolen out of the man's house, if the thief be found, let him pay double. But if the thief, verse 8, be not found, then the master of the house shall be brought unto the judges to see whether he have put his hand unto his neighbor's goods. Very simply, if they find who did it, the thief needs to restore double. If they cannot find the thief, then the master of the house, who was storing the goods, will be brought before the judges to be judged whether or not he took the goods. For all manner of trespass, whether it be for ox, for ass, for sheep, for raiment, or for any manner of lost thing which another challengeth to be his, the cause of both parties shall come before the judges, and whom the judges shall condemn, he shall pay double to his neighbor. Then shall an oath If a man deliver unto his neighbor an ass or an ox or a sheep or any beast to keep, and it die, or be hurt, or driven away, no man seeing it, then shall an oath of the Lord between them both, that he hath not put his hand unto his neighbor's goods, and the owner of it shall accept thereof, and he shall not make it good. If you left your animals in the care of another, and they simply die, or they fall into a chuck hole and break their leg, or somebody steal it, be driven away, but nobody knows how this happened. It escaped, maybe. An oath before the Lord be between them both, that he has not caused this to happen deliberately to gain advantage over his neighbor. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 6. Hebrews chapter 6 and verse 16. Hebrews chapter 6 and verse 16. For men verily swear by the greater, and an oath for confirmation is to them an end of all strife. An oath to the Lord. Verse 12. And if it be stolen from him, he shall make restitution unto the owner thereof. If it be torn in pieces, then let him bring it for witness, and he shall not make good that which was torn. If he allows it to be stolen, then it needs to be made good, needs to be paid for. But if an animal comes, a wolf or a bear or a lion comes and tears an animal, an ox or a sheep or a goat or an ass, he just brings the torn body that the animal did and does not need to restore to the owner thereof. And if a man borrow aught of his neighbor, and it be hurt or die, the owner thereof being not with it, he shall surely make it good. But if the owner thereof be with it, he shall not make it good. If it be an hired thing, it came for his hire. Neighbor borrowed an ox to pull the plow, to plow his field. And it be hurt or die, the owner of the land shall make it good with the owner of his neighbor. But if the owner is with it, the owner is controlling the animal, if the owner is there or has hired it out for money to do the work, he shall not make it good. It be an hired thing. It came for his hire. The money has already been paid. And if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed and lie with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. The man entice a woman to lie with her, a maid, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. He needs to pay the dowry to the father. He needs to marry her, to take her to wife. We go to Deuteronomy chapter 22. Deuteronomy chapter 22. And verse 28. If a man find a damsel that is a virgin, which is not betrothed, and lay hold on her, and lie with her, and they be found, then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he hath humbled her. he may not put her away all his days. He's stuck with her. He's married her. Verse 17 of Exodus 22, if her father utterly refused to give her unto him, he shall pay money according to the dowry of virgins. Again, the 50 shekels of silver, and not get the woman. Here we have an important thing in God's law. Verse 18. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. There shall be no witchcraft in amongst God's people. You see, we go to Leviticus chapter 19. Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 26. Ye shall not, wrong verse, sorry. Verse 31. Regard not them that have familiar spirits, neither seek after wizards to be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. We go to Leviticus 20 and verse 27. A man also or a woman that hath a familiar spirit or that is a wizard shall surely be put to death. They shall stone them with stones, their blood shall be upon them, their own blood. If we go to 1 Samuel 28, you will see the fact that Saul, king of Israel, had put the witches out of the kingdom, yet he sought one later. Go on to verse 19 of Exodus 22. Whosoever lieth with a beast shall surely be put to death. Verse 19. Here we are again, verse 20. He that sacrificeth unto any god save unto the Lord only, he shall be utterly destroyed. Thou shalt neither vex a stranger, nor oppress him, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. You need to take care of people. Go to Jeremiah chapter 6. Jeremiah chapter 6. Jeremiah chapter 7, rather. Jeremiah chapter 7 and verse 6. If ye oppress not the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, and shed not innocent blood in this place, neither walk after other gods to your hurt, then will I cause you to dwell in this place in the land that I gave to your fathers, forever and ever. God has made promises. You can also look in Zechariah 7:10 and Malachi chapter 3 and verse 5. Verse 22, ye shall not afflict any widow or fatherless child. God has a good place in his heart for widows and fatherless children. He looks after them. Verse 23, if thou afflict them in any wise, and they cry at all unto me, I will surely hear their cry, and my wrath shall wax hot, and I will kill you with the sword. And your wives shall be widows, and your children fatherless. Your wife, your children will be in the same place as the people that you oppressed. We go to Psalm chapter 69, Psalm 69 and verse 6. Psalm 69 and verse 24. 69, Psalm 69, 24. Pour out thine indignation upon them, and let thy wrathful anger take hold of them. Psalm 109, verse 9. 109 and verse 9. Let his children be fatherless, and let his wife a widow. Let his children be continually vagabonds and beg. Let them seek their bread also out of their desolate places. God has a place. And here is the law of lending money. Thou lend money to any of my people that is poor by thee. Thou shalt not be to him as an usurer, neither shalt thou lay upon him usury. That is undue interest. You're not going to collect an undue amount of interest if you lend money to the poor in Israel, brother to brother, Jew to Jew, Hebrew to Hebrew. You cannot expect to do that with undue interest. If you do such, God will speak to you. You can look at Nehemiah 5, verse 7, Psalm 15 and verse 5, Ezekiel 18 and verse 8. These will speak all to that. If thou at all take thy neighbor's raiment to pledge, thou shalt deliver it unto him that the sun goeth down. For this is his covering only, it is raiment for his skin. Wherein shall he sleep? And it shall come to pass when he crieth unto me that I will hear, for I am gracious. You're going to take the guy's clothes as a pledge? No, give it back to him. Let him have his clothes so that he will not be cold in the night for lack of clothing. Where shall he sleep? What shall he do? Thou shalt not revile the gods, small g, nor curse the ruler of thy people. Don't curse out the leader of your people, the ruler over you. God has set a ruler over you. You may not like it, but he has set a ruler over you. And speaks to that. Ecclesiastes 10 and verse 20 and Acts 23 and verse 5. Thou shalt not delay to offer the first of thy ripe fruits, and of thy liquors the firstborn of thy sons shalt thou give unto me. Likewise shalt thou do with thine oxen and with thy sheep. 7 days it shall be with his dam. On the 8th day thou shalt give it me. And ye shall be holy men unto me. Neither shall ye eat any flesh that is torn of beasts in the field. Ye shall cast it to the dogs. Anything an animal kills, you don't eat. Okay? Anything that's roadkill, you don't eat. This is the law for the Jews. I went a little over tonight. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry because every word of the Lord is precious and meaningful and needs careful study. Good evening, and we'll see you next week and walk through the Word. Thank you. Okay, Sean.